Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdome.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdome.
What up? This is Myron, and you were listening or watching the Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast at Down on the Docks on the other side of the tracks, 5-star dive bar podcast of and about the Seattle Mariners. And look, I don't care where you're getting this as long as you're liking, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, if you want that street cred for rocking the Rye Bread, hit up at simply.cora. That is at simply.cora. And also go check out In the Clutch. You know what? Put in the code Nasty Boys, you'll get 5% off. Also, if you're headed to the games this weekend, Houston Astros are in town. Well, if the roof is open or closed, doesn't matter, because tacos and tequila right across there on Occidental, the bar and the kitchen is always open. All right, we are coming at you, you know what, right after the home run derby, where that's right, ex-Mariner Teo Hernández takes the crown. Mariners, Twitter, Facebook groups, whatever. Everybody's freaking out. Yesterday, everybody was freaking out that Scott Service takes out Logan in the game. Now we got another thing to bitch about. Boy, it is a fun time to be a Mariners fan. A fun time to be a fan, or interesting time to be a fan of a first place team. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened in Anaheim. We're going to talk about Logan Gilbert and Andres Munoz, how they deserved and how happy we are about them being down at the All-Star game in Texas. And we're going to talk about how close maybe Cal Raleigh is to being a perennial All-Star every year, plus a little bit of talk about the draft. And of course, yes, we are going to talk a bit about the home run derby. That's at the end of this episode. And with me to talk about everything that I just talked about there in the intro, but we're going to let him choose, is CJ over in the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona. You were just in Vegas all weekend, checking out the Mariners, making a lot of money against them or losing a lot of money for them, with them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely lost money.
You had to load up on Thursday night, man. You should have took the under on the under on the runs, or the over.
Yeah. Yeah, the over on the funny thing with that was I was at the Rio at that time in the sports book, and there were a couple dudes that were live betting the Mariners Angels game. And I'm pretty sure they're Angels fans, and they were just freaking out because they placed the bet, and then the number was 12. The over under was 12 at that time, and it was literally maybe 30 seconds before Cal hit the 3-run homer. And then they just freaked out. And then for the rest of the game, they were just like pacing around and yelling at the Angels and yelling at us, like not to score. And then, I mean, they ended up winning their bet, but it was kind of entertaining to watch that because there wasn't, I mean, other than us smoking the Angels 11-0, there wasn't really much else to watch at that point of the game.
Yeah. And I was going to say to here, now that we're into it, I was like, you could pick out of the things that we could start with. Let's just get the, let's just get it out today. Listen, I was in San Diego and then I was in Anaheim. Was lucky enough to go to that Thursday game. I was pretty close behind the plate. That had to be the most enjoyable game I've been to all season. It made me go back down there Friday, took another one of those walk-off L's that I've taken for years and years, living down here in Southern California. It seems like Anaheim, whether they're good or bad, when you play down at the Big A, they seem to do that. Kind of took it as whatever. Then we had the 2-1 game, which was, I was like, man, this is just the typical as bad as it gets. Mariners lost, meaning we have Kirby go out there, do another Kirby performance. Bullpen holds it down. You get the 1 run in the first inning and can't do anything. Then into Sunday, you had no really hard hit balls. I was down there again, right there above the dugout, and off by the camera pit. Not a lot of hard hit balls. There was JP's home run, and then you had Victor Robles, getting a walk and stealing a couple bases and just using speed to get get that run in, but they left the bases loaded a couple of times. I can't keep track in that game, but they were just not hitting the ball hard. And so I just want to call Thursday's game like the fool's gold, or it was definitely one of those games where it was just like, okay, again, we just had this happen a couple of days ago in San Diego. Have we figured it out? You have Cal have this monster game. The very next day, it seems like it carries over, and then you have this drought into the next game where I know each game is separate, but they seem like it was just a de-evolution of the Mariners.
Yeah, it's like disheartening when we say there's a fluke win. Usually it's a fluke loss, but it was a fluke win with 11 runs. That's just not our style, unfortunately. And so I hate to say it, but it wasn't fluke. It's not, it's an outlier of the season. Not something that we experience in most games. And so it was nice to see, but it's not something with what we have right now that we're going to continue to see. I don't think.
It just hurts because you go into the All-Star break one game up only when you had the 10-game lead, which everybody knew that was not going to last. It's just how fast that happened. But the amount of games that the Mariners have lost, I also feel very fortunate that we still have a lead,
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, it's not like we're in last place, right? We're still leading the division. We had the break. It's, who knows what happens? It's like halftime adjustments. So hopefully there's some adjustments happening. Guys are getting the rest, and we start off with Houston, right? And so, I mean, that could be a big turning point in the season and how we start the second half.
Yes, and before we get to that, just a couple of things here in this series. I thought Cal Raleigh, to start off this series, was absolutely hot. I was calling for him to be on the All-Star team. I was very happy that we got to hear that Munoz was going this week. Both of the Logan and him definitely deserved it. Those are your two. I think those two are your MVPs here up into the All-Star break, but like in a close second or third, whatever you want to call it, is Cal Raleigh. I mean, again, hitting home runs from both sides of the plate. That was amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, and it's happening multiple times in multiple games, and I think he's the true leader on the team, and he's kind of the captain of the pitching staff, right? Keeping them under control and helping them out, and so I think a lot of their success is based on Cal, right? And so it's a bummer that he didn't make the All-Star team, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, batting average isn't really there, but I mean, if you're looking at it from just a clutch level, like he definitely is probably one of the most clutch players that's out there. When you need a hit, he comes through for us.
Absolutely. When I think of the Mariners, I know people want to say, of course, you think of Julio, or some people go, JP's the heart and soul of the team. I mean, Hanno and I and you probably would put an argument that Cal Raleigh is one of those Mr. Mariners.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the iconic home run. He has how many clutch hits, game winner. I mean, I've lost track of how many times he's done this. You look at all these stats, what home runs, RBIs, at least didn't look today, but if you look up like catcher statistics, he has the most home runs. He was tied, I believe, for the most RBIs. You have those clutch moments, you have the putouts. And then you're like, he handles arguably the best pitching staff in baseball, and arguably why your team is in first place. So for me, it's tough not to see him there. But the rest of the series, he didn't do much, and I feel like maybe he did because of his slow start this year. The way they pick teams, it's kind of a timing thing, right? For the All-Star game, like you either need to get off on a really hot start, or you need to have like middle of May hot to the end of June type of thing to get picked up on the team.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's just tough. I mean, I'm looking at stats now, and he has 118 strikeouts, which that's tough. I mean, batting 216. So, if you're not a Mariners fan, you're not paying attention to the team. Like, you wouldn't think that he's an all-star, right? So it's more of,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest dig on him is like, look, the Mariners are hitting a league low 219 now. Here, let's take a little positive spin. They started last week at 218, so their batting average went up one point, and you had 2 offensive outbursts during that week, and your shit only went up 1 point. Why? Because of the rest of the week. But come on, Cal, you do have to hit at least better than the Mariners batting average. I mean, that's the low bar. No, but for real, I feel like Cal and who he is, he has this great nickname, and he's this like throwbackish character. I really feel like seeing him on like a big national stage, like the All-Star game, where you're really getting to slow the game down and getting to know these players. I feel like MLB is missing out on somebody really special in that way right now.
Yep, I agree with you too. Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, just looking at how they like Service has put him in the lineup. Like he's bouncing around like all throughout the lineup, like batting third, batting second, batting fourth, batting fifth. So I know, it's not without trying to figure out the right spot. I think it's the same thing with Julio, right? It's like, and so just trying to find the right spot and seeing what works.
Exactly. A couple other little things about this Anaheim series that I wanted to talk about was probably the most talked about thing, and I think it gets a little bit blown up, was Sunday. Logan is absolutely cruising in that game. 87 pitches. I know big picture, you take him out, and maybe it was the right move, but we saw Ryan Stanek, have a back spasm after walking somebody. Side note, if you go check out our social media, I was sitting on top of the dugout filming him just walking off just randomly, and some Angels fan came down and was just laying into him, which is how Bush League, laying into somebody that's injured. And Stanek looks up, and you can see it right there on the video, and he tells the fan, "Eat shit." But we posted that. That's on the Instagram and on X, Twitter, whatever. Disclaimer, spelt Ryan's name like regular Ryan, because it was so hot behind the plate that my fingers were too sweaty and the phone was getting so hot that it was pausing, that I just voice noted everything in there. So I spelt Ryan the normal way. He's got a tricky name. Like if you just heard his name out loud and didn't look at the back of his jersey or look up at his name the way it sounds, because it's Ryne. It's like Ryan.
Yeah,
And then
right. Exactly. Stanek. It's Stanek.
But that was probably my biggest highlight of the weekend, was outside of the Thursday game. But look, the Mariners, 500 road series, right? 3-3. It's a bit of an improvement. They've had some losing road trips. So if you are looking for the positives, that's it. And as far as Logan and Munoz, let's talk a little bit about Logan. Well-deserved all-star selection. Got to be honest, kind of okay with him not pitching in the game. I know it sucks. He probably wants to get in there and just throw his shit for one inning. I'm sure any player does, but I'm all right with it. I'm glad we're going to probably see Munoz pitch in this game, because that's not going to really affect any rest too much. What do you think about these selections?
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think I read, and I don't know, probably have to fact check me, that they adjusted the starting rotation so Gilbert would pitch in that game. So then he wouldn't be available for the All-Star game. And so that opened up the spot for Munoz. And so that's why he's not available to pitch, because he pitched right before the All-Star. And so that opened up a spot for Munoz, who's going to be able to play. So I read that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's pretty cool thinking if you think about it from Service and the organization.
Well, look, if you still had your 10-game lead, you could be like, all right, it's all right. Well, have a little bit longer of a rest, get an inning in here. But no, we absolutely need these guys. And I think Munoz, I was saying this on prior podcasts, I think he would have already been on the team had the Mariners not had this rough patch here, because outside of maybe that 2-week period where he was recovering from the play at the plate in Oakland that had his back kind of funky, and maybe the very start of the season when he was adjusting to being like, you're going to be going in the 9th inning all the time. He's been flawless, but the Mariners didn't have a lot of situations where we were getting victories and he being able to come in there and pitch during that period of time that they've went on slide usually with.
I think if we average one or two more runs, we might have like 4 of the 5 starters in the All-Star game plus Munoz. It's just, we're wasting away like these starting pitching and how brilliant they are, and then it's just we don't score enough runs to support them. Like, whatever that stat was when Gilbert, it's with the Felix getting the Felix treatment, where we're not scoring any runs for any of our pitchers, and so it's tough. And so I think we would have had more. We would have had more pitchers in the All-Star game if we would have scored, 1 or 2 more runs potentially.
Yes, we like to call it the ghost of Felix Hernandez's run support. The spirit,
so unfortunate.
The spirits run very strong with the Mariners. But we had to talk about it. I think let's just put the Anaheim thing to rest. You got to beat those teams. You got to at least split a 4-game series with a team like that. Anyways, let's move on here.
Mariners approved the script. We go down to Arizona, and we present the commercials to all the guys, and they all liked it. Buhner came in. He said, "Yeah, that's fun. I'll do that." Lou said, "Yeah, I'll do it but I don't want to take all damn day." So he said, "Okay, Lou, we'll get you in and out in an hour, I promise." And then Bosio and Randy came in together. So we showed Randy his commercial. We had little storyboards. There's Randy dressed as a carnival knife thrower, and he said, "Yeah, that's cool. I can do that." Bosio liked it, and he said, "Yeah, that's really neat. What do you got for me?" And he said, "Chris, you're going to love this. You're a gruff, tough, right-handed pitcher who doesn't back down to hitters. What's the occupation you're least suited for?" And I show him the picture, a ballerina in a tutu dancing to Swan Lake. And his smile turned to a frown. He goes, "Are you effing kidding me?" Meanwhile, Randy's laughing his ass off. He goes, "Give me that thing. I'm going to hang it up in the clubhouse." And Bosio says, "The hell you are." And he takes it and he rips it in half. And he rips it in half again. And it's like, he says, "I'll do a commercial for you guys. I'm not going to do that goddamn commercial." Yes, sir. We got it. So we go back to the hotel. We have a few drinks. We try to come, because we're shooting in 2 days, come up with some ideas. So we finally come up with an idea that, again, the toughness of Bosio, but instead of a ballerina, he is a dentist who doesn't believe in Novocaine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's pulling teeth from this poor guy. But there was, and they were pretty well received, the commercials. But there was a lesson there, which is it's okay to have fun with the players, but don't make fun of them.
Right.
And that's that line in comedy. A cheap laugh isn't always a good laugh.
This has been my first All-Star game. I have not been to or attended the Home Run Derby or the All-Star game in a couple of years. I was in LA and in Seattle last year, and so was Julio. So it is very strange to not see Julio there, right, as a Mariners fan. I wonder how this is going to affect him. We've seen, like, specifically last year, he went on that torrid streak of hitting after the All-Star break. And last year he had a lot of pressure on him, right? It was in Seattle. And let's be honest here. If that game is not in Seattle, he wasn't in it. He wasn't in the home run derbies. I mean, he wouldn't have been in the home run derby last year. Because at first, I believe he was like ambassador to the All-Star game. And then he was in the home run derby. And then he was on the team. I believe it kind of went in that order, if I can remember.
I think he hurt himself right in the All-Star in the home run derby. Didn't he pull it back or something? It wasn't terrible, but I think he injured himself participating in the derby.
I know he did that when he was in LA. Because I remember they had a series in 2021 right before the All-Star break. They were in Texas, where the All-Star game is today, and he slid into second base and kind of seemed like he jammed something up, but then he was still in the home run derby, put on that show.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, we were taking on Houston right after the break. We're on a 14-game winning streak. No Julio, no dice. I think Houston swept us, if I can remember correctly. And then last year puts on another big show, comes up a bit short, but it seemed like that pressure that he had last year kind of went away after the All-Star break. And maybe this is good for him. Maybe it's definitely probably puts a chip on the shoulder, and also the rest is good for him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like he's he'll take this as a challenge to get better. Because I feel like he's someone who wants to be a part of it, wants to be with everyone there and having a good time, joking, and having that type of environment. And then I don't know if he's watching or not, but you'd think that he would do everything he possibly can to get back to that shape, and hopefully we'll see that with this break, and then coming into the the second half. Will it's kind of like the Seattle Summers, right? They start in July 5th, and so maybe that's just. Hopefully it's not every year, but just this year maybe he'll start go on tear in the second half.
You can start to see it's starting to click. He's definitely heating up, especially with the power numbers. We're also seeing a lot of outs where he flies out, if I can remember correctly. Like he's right there, still playing hard, running the bases a lot better. I feel like this is going to be really good for Julio. I don't know if we're going to see one of those historic stretches, but I would like to see him here in the second half, and I think he can hit around 300. I think he's right under 270 right now. He's still in the
like 264, I think. Yeah,
64. So if he ends the year hitting around like 285, I think the Mariners are going to be able to take care of business here in the West. I mean, as a team, 1,000 strikeouts. Let's mention that. What's it? 1,013 strikeouts before the All-Star break. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the philosophy in the offseason was to reduce the strikeouts, and now it's like a comedy of errors to be the like an all-time like trajectory of breaking all kinds of records and strikeouts, and be at over 1,000 before the All-Star break is insane.
Yeah, it is insane, and it is insane. We'll get into the home run derby, talk about all the insane fans out, the Mariners fans just going nuts because of Teoscar Hernandez's win, like we were talking about here in the intro. But the 100 or 1,000, the 1,013 strikeouts. I mean, I look at the who's. Let's just pull this up. Who's second in strikeouts? I think it's. Let's see. MLB team hitting.
It's the Athletics, 949.
949. So, you're talking
64.
64 more strikeouts than one of the worst teams. Like when you go to this hitting and you look at the Mariners, it's like it's crazy to think they're in first place because you look at who's down here with them, and it's White Sox, it's Oakland, it's Pittsburgh, it's
Colorado.
Yeah. And I don't know. They just got to hit the ball. I don't understand how you change that philosophy. We talk about it way too much, but it's
Well, and also the scary thing is that Houston is leading the league in batting average now.
Exactly. So the team that is chasing you is hitting the shit out of the ball, and you cannot hit the ball. That's a scary, that's a
They
scary.
have about 400 less strikeouts than we do.
Yeah. And we've talked about it before. Houston, whether you like it or not, they are the gatekeepers of the AL. Since 17, they've either been in the ALCS or they've been in the World Series. So you got to deal with. There's no getting around Houston. And they scare me just because of that mental fuck more than the Yankees, more than Cleveland, and more than Baltimore. Speaking of which, the one thing that the Mariners have failed to do that they also, besides holding on to the West, is they're not making a dent in catching Cleveland or whoever's taking in the AL East, which pretty much puts you in the wild card round, right? You basically get the same treatment as the number one wild card team. You get the home games in that first round, and that's the only advantage you get.
Yeah, because right now it's the Yankees, Twins, and Red Sox in the wild card.
And all of those teams have better records than us.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty close. Boston's 53-42. We're 42-46. Twins 54-42. Yes, I mean, so yeah, from that sense, they are better than us. But we are at 53% win percentage or 531. So staying on track with Jerry's 54%.
Not even up to Jerry's standards.
That's true. We're just a little off. Yeah,
we are below Jerry's standards. I mean, so he can honestly go, you know what? I thought we would be better at this point as far as wins and losses. And, if you're not reaching that 54, then you don't really got nothing to say. But yeah, I know everybody wants to point to Jerry in the front office and everything like that. I'm anticipating that they are going to make a move this year. And speaking of Jerry, we'll talk about some trades and stuff like that on the next episode when we're kind of wrapping up what's going on here on the first half. Jerry and Justin, and as Hanno calls him, the Shadow, busy this last Sunday. At least they had a distraction of what was going on. MLB draft happening down in Texas, down in the rodeo barn. Was that where they had it this year?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, so it happened. They started holding it in the city in which the All-Star game's in. So I know they had it in Seahawks Stadium last year.
I got to look. I wonder if they did it at the Fort Worth Stockyards. I've been there before.
Cowtown Coliseum in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep. So that's, probably right there.
116-year-old Cowtown Coliseum, known as the Wrigley Field of Rodeo.
Yeah, I've been there, and they have Billy Bob's is the big, huge honky tonk, and it is massive. Went there with the girlfriend. Went to go see Money in the Bank, WWE Money in the Bank.
Nice.
Right? That was like the first big PLE during the pandemic where they actually let fans, and I had to be at it. Seems like they went with pitching this season, which I've also seen fans complain about, and I'm like, I don't know how much you pay attention to baseball, but unlike football and basketball or hockey, the jump and the journey to the major leagues does not happen tomorrow. So just
that's right. Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, I think that the draft, I didn't stay too close to it, but I mean, like, you got a guy that pitches from left and the right side, so that's interesting. So we got a switch pitcher, which I don't know how. I don't even know if there's ever been one like that.
There has. He played on the Oakland A's. He played I think he was up and down for about 5 years in the major leagues. And they actually have a rule based off of him of like, you have to indicate
which side you're going from,
or you're going right-handed. And that's for substitutions and game planning. And also you can't just pitch a couple pitches left and a couple pitches right.
It's pretty crazy. He's pretty small too, like 5'11", 200 pounds, 21-year-old. Be interesting to see. I mean, I hope, get a look at him. I mean, it's definitely unique, that's for sure. And I don't know if you saw one of the later picks from today. They picked up a guy that I'm not gonna say he's like Ohtani, but he can hit the ball and he can pitch. So he can do both. So it'll be interesting to see that.
I believe he's a catcher and a pitcher.
Yeah, right. So he hits the ball hard and he can pitch. So it's interesting.
Would be great if he could pitch and catch. I think Durangelo, I think, with the switch pitching, at least you're like, well, the odds of one of these sides working out from a first rounder is probably pretty good. And because he's a pitcher, maybe his road to the major leagues might be a little bit quicker than an offensive player.
Yeah, that's true. And also he's older, right? So he's a college guy, not a high school guy. So that might help fast track him as well.
Right. He's an adult. He has an adult's body, more than
right, he can legally go to a bar.
Yes. And also, listen, Mariners desperately need more and more pieces that they can possibly trade. Like if they traded I wouldn't be upset because I don't have no attachment to him, So
I was going through just like, I don't know. I think we have now 8 or 9 players in the top 100 in prospects because a couple guys have dropped off the list, but then then like Tyler Locklear, I think moved into the top 100. And like I've been going back and forth internally on with the draft, and just I know we're not talking about it now, but I mean I'm okay if we just end up clearing out, and then because we have to take advantage of what we have now from a pitching perspective. You don't have this type of pitchers all the time, and like it's like prime time, and so it's interesting. So like we can load up in the draft or now, and then what we have. I would hate to lose a number of the guys that we have in the farm system, but at the same time, hopefully we can get a bat back that, or a couple bats or 3 bats that can help the team.
I'm all in for, Luis Robert. That's the guy that's the guy. I will talk about it more down the road, but that's the guy where I'm just kind of going like, well, what do you need? Just match up the windows. The Mariners have to make a move. I mean,
the thing that sucks is that everyone knows that, and we need hitting, and so I think we're going to end up overpaying for whatever we get if we do anything, and so.
Oh, for sure. Anything that you get this time of year, there's such a tax on it.
NBC Sports presents the 1979 All-Star Game from Seattle's Kingdome. It's the All-Stars of the National League versus the best of the American League. The 1979 All-Star Game is brought to you by Chrysler Corporation. See the mileage makers at your Dodge or Chrysler Plymouth dealers. And by the newest member of Gillette's All-Star Team, foamy tropical coconut shave cream. Every shave is like a trip to the tropics. And by the Miller Brewing Company, brewers of Miller High Life. If you've got the time, we've got the beer. And by Polaroid, makers of the SX70 Sonar, the world's smartest camera.
Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast.
We have the one and only Mr. Tom Hutler. Do you have any of your favorite stories from the Kingdome?
There was a time we had an earthquake, and so they were going to evacuate the building. So I was like getting up to go leave, and they go, "No, you can't go. You got to read these safety things." It's like,
do we need to tell them that there's smoking's only on the exterior ramps?
Yeah. And Dave came shooting past. He signed off. I'm going, wait, I'm the only one here.
Listen and subscribe to Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast, wherever you get your podcast.
Well, we talked about it in the intro. This is fresh right after the home run derby. We saved the best for last. Myron, how could you say the best? There was no Mariners in it, and a former Mariner won. In fact, CJ, before we get into this, I'm going to pull up. I think, Twitter X gets a little dicey, but I don't think anything gets crazier than the Facebook group.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
People are saying, but as far as the home run derby, they changed the rules yet again, and I was like, what are they doing now? When they were changing the rules, I thought the rules were awesome. They kept the regular, or I shouldn't say regular, the format that they were using for the first part of the first round, where you get a certain amount of time. You can get a bonus for just a monster shot, which actually I think they moved into the second part of the first round. But so you got 3 minutes or 40 balls max, I think was what was going on. And then you had 3 outs, traditional, or no, 4 outs, traditional.
4 outs. Yeah.
Traditional. And then that's where you could get the bonus. And we saw, obviously, Teo Hernández, spoiler alert, ends up winning this thing. So, of course, Mariner fans are, going ape shit about it one way or another. I was actually rooting for him. Were you rooting against him or for him?
I mean, any ex-Mariner I would root for. It was just, it's one of those things like it's just sad to see, someone like that who was on our team, and it's exactly what we need right now, not playing for us. And so seeing that no run derby is, and not having Julio there, it's kind of bittersweet. But yeah, I was hoping he win just because he was an ex-Mariner, but it was sad.
It burns, especially when, the production has to be like, let's talk about him. Let's talk about how great he is.
Yeah.
And, don't the people in Toronto, it seemed like more of like, it probably hurt more for Toronto Blue Jays fans.
Yeah, that's true.
like because he
Well, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. was there,
yeah,
kind of helping him out and coaching him and stuff like that.
and
I think
and
another thing,
wearing,
go ahead.
of Teoscar Hernandez Blue Jays
Yeah,
jersey.
yeah, no kidding.
Hey, he is a free agent. He's gonna get paid big
Yeah,
this
for
next
sure.
year. So that was definitely probably a recruitment thing. Uh, but
Well, and also
hey,
like another thing from like a Julio standpoint, watching it or seeing it, there's a couple guys that were in his class from a rookie perspective, like Gunner and Bobby, and they're performing. They're in there, and he's nowhere to be seen, which that's brutal. So hopefully that drives him.
yes, that would be a bit brutal where these guys are developing. It seems like they're developing, and Julio's kind of where he was. Now you could take this back to 2 years ago, and he was the one that was developed.
Yeah,
So
right.
they have definitely caught up. They've definitely evened up. One thing though, got to crack the Coke Zero bottle or whatever you're drinking there down over there. Ken Griffey Jr.'s 3 titles still
Yep.
not obtained by Pete Alonso, and he's tried to obtain it these last 3 years. I said this last year. You're out of here now. You've had enough chances.
Yeah.
You've been in this thing too many times.
Yeah.
I'll still say,
Until we end up trading for him, he's a Mariner.
would it change my mind? Maybe a little bit, but no. If okay, this is the only way it would change my mind. We get him, we go on to win the World Series, and then he wants to compete again. I go, hey, that's one of my World Series champion Mariners. You let him do whatever he wants. But until that happens, that's the only way he should be let back in there. You got to move out of the way. There was a lot of different faces in the home run derby. And, after you got through that first round, during that first round, I should say, I want to go back to that. It was interesting how you'd go through the speed round that all of these players in this era are accustomed to. As many home runs as you can in this time. And then you had them go back to the old classic way. Find a pitch, locate it, take it out. Teoscar Hernandez seemed to have the best approach with that. Taking pitches, catching his breath, and doing it. The worst person at it was Garcia from Texas. He was absolutely pacing himself with his pitcher, who was slinging him in there. I don't know if you noticed that his pitcher, Pena, I believe last name was, he was kind of like, I don't know, just like quick short arm, chucking him in there, but he was taking his time. And then they get to the that part of the of the first round where you get to pick your pitches and there's no time limit. And then he swings at like 3 jam shots. And you're like, those balls, I don't even know if those were strikes, but listen, anytime a Texas Ranger or Houston Astros shits the bed, I'm fine with it. You moved on. And then I want to say the semifinal round between the third baseman from Philadelphia and
Alec Bro. Yeah.
Him and Teoscar getting into that swing off was just so dramatic. And then the final round with Bobby Witt Jr. Again, you're taking out the guy that's kind of becoming the face, right? Bobby Witt Jr. Or you either were going for him or you were going from one of the guys that got away. Very bittersweet, but it got down to that extra round, and then it took here's how close that home run derby was. It was a ball off the wall at the deepest part of the park.
Yeah, just barely. It kept in the yard, but that was crazy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the way they did this. I would say, I know it sucked not having a Mariner in there, and for me, definitely, I have that kind of like, I was there the last.
We don't have anyone that deserves to be there, so I think it's fine this year. Let's see what happens. I mean, Cal maybe, but let's get Cal and Julio in there next year, one of them.
Yeah, I think Cal Raleigh would be really fun, just like Adley Rushman or Ramirez from Cleveland, where you can switch hit. But I would really love to see. I'd really love to see Cal in there because I don't think it would fuck with his swing. I don't think it would screw with his swing whatsoever because that's just what he does.
That's his thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting Jay Buhner in a home run derby. You're like, this is what he does. This is how he.
This is what I do.
This is how he swings. But all in all,
I thought, crush ball.
all in all, I thought the home run derby was a lot of fun. The All-Star game tomorrow is going to be, or today when you're listening to this, is going to be kind of like meh, because you're going to see maybe one inning of Mariner participation from a first place team. So it just kind of feels kind of gross.
We're in first place, but we feel, I mean, hey, if it in today, we're in first place. Like, I don't see us going very far in the playoffs. Or like, we need more bats, and then
plural.
But yeah, I'm not like, it doesn't feel like everyone's happy from a fan standpoint. It's just like we're almost faking our way into first place. We're first place, we're 1 game lead, but it just doesn't feel how it should feel being a first place team. I think it's like somewhat fake almost.
And we say, hey, look, we're scared of Houston. 1 game.
Yeah.
Look, the Texas Rangers, the defending world champions, are only 5 games back.
That's right. It'll be very interesting to see what happens after next weekend series. Where we are. That'll be a very telling, laying the groundwork for the second half of the season.
Right. And we're going to be back once more before we kick off the season. Also, there is going to be a Wake and Bake episode on Thursday with me and DJ Vladdy Daddy. We will be back. We'll put that out. But we are going to have one more Rye Bread and Mustard, more or less. We're talking a little bit about the first half, what's going to happen in the second half. No series, just overall talking, maybe some hot stove stuff this week. So we will be back with that. Look, All-Star games, that's not, we had the big All-Star game push last year. It was in Seattle. If you're just not into what's going on right now, that's fine. Take a little bit of time off. Go check out some WWE. There's a road to SummerSlam. WWE's got you. Anyways, thanks for liking, subscribing, and all that good shit. Hannah ain't here. CJ, you know what time it is. Man, you're getting better and better at that.